Hello everyone. For today, I will be discussing our next topic, which is on the endocrine system. So just like sa nervous system, the endocrine system also has two basic functions, yung communication and regulation. Kapag sinabi natin na classic endocrine system, ito ay binubuo ng mga ductless glands. Ang ibig sabihin ng ductless, wala silang sariling tubo o daanan para ilabas ang kanilang produkto. So instead, direkta nilang nilalabas ang mga hormones sa dugo. Ngayon, ano ba ang mga hormones? So these are chemical messengers. Ibig sabihin, sila ang tagadala ng mensahe mula sa isang parte ng katawan papunta sa iba. At tandaan ninyo, gumagana sila kahit sobrang liit lang ng concentration. Hindi kailangan ng malaking concentration or madaming concentration para makagawa ng epekto. Kahit konting-konti, may physiological response na agad. Okay? So kung titignan natin sa figure na ito, makikita natin yung iba't ibang glands na bumubuo sa endocrine system. So, bawat isa sa kanila may kanya-kanyang hormones na ginagawa, may specific target organs na tinatamaan ng kanilang signal. Okay? So, pag sinabi natin na endocrine system is more on communication, regulation, ductless glands, at hormones bilang messengers in very small amounts. Now, endocrinology, this is a branch of physiology. Basically, it deals with the coordination of body tissues. Pero hindi ito basta physical connection. Okay? Ang gamit niya ay chemical mediators. So these chemical mediators are substances that are being produced only in a specific or restricted areas of the body, like the endocrine glands. Halimbawa, insulin sa pancreas o thyroid hormones sa thyroid gland. So, ibig sabihin, ang trabaho ng endocrinology ay intindihin kung paano nag-uusap ang mga iba't ibang hormones and tissues through these chemical mediators or chemical messengers para ma-maintain yung balance or yung tinatawag natin as homeostasis. Okay? Now, for the hormones, like for example, um, ito yung mga substances naman or chemical mediator produced by the endocrine glands and carried by the blood to some distant part of the body where it exerts its effect. Okay? So first one for this one is meron tayong tinatawag na immune function. So when it comes to the immune function, like for example, yung cortisol. Okay? So yung mga hormones like cortisol, they would affect the immune system. So kapag stress ang animal at mataas ang cortisol, bumababa ang immune response. Kaya mas susceptible sila sa mga diseases. So on the other hand, pag normal hormone balance naman, then it would help in maintaining yung strong immunity. The next one, another na function is with the milk production. So essential din yung mga hormones natin sa lactation. So what are the hormones that are very common when it comes to the milk production is we have yung um, So yung prolactin from the pituitary, it will stimulate now yung milk synthesis. Habang yung oxytocin naman, it will trigger yung milk letdown. Kaya kung may hormonal imbalance, pwedeng mababa ang milk yield ng mga dairy animals natin. Then, mineral and water balance, what are the common hormones for this one? We have yung aldosterone tsaka yung antidiuretic hormone or yung ADH natin. So sila naman yung nagre-regulate ng electrolyte and water balance. So I hope it was already discussed this one in your water nutrition. So importante ito para maiwasan ang dehydration lalo na sa mainit na temperature or kapag mataas ang production demand ng katawan ng animal. Okay? The next one, behavior and aggression. So when it comes to our male animals, ang main na hormone dito is what we call as the testosterone. So yung mga testosterone nila, it would influence yung aggressiveness tsaka yung sexual behavior. Kaya makikita natin na mas territorial or mas aggressive ang mga breeding animals natin, lalong-lalo na yung mga lalaki compared sa mga castrated animals. Okay? Kasi yun, it would affect yung mismong aggressiveness ng mga animals natin. Now, in terms of the thermoregulation, this one, yung mga thyroid hormones natin. So they have this role sa regulation ng body temperature. So kapag mababa ang thyroid activity, mabagal ang metabolism at madaling ginawin ang animal. So medyo alisod ang malamin. So kung sobra naman, mabilis uminit yung katawan. So yung mga stress hormones natin like yung adrenaline, they would also help these animals to cope up with sudden na temperature changes. Then lastly would be the appetite and feeding behavior. So yung mga hormones natin like yung leptin at saka yung ghrelin, these are the hormones that would regulate yung hunger and satiety. Okay? Leptin, that is letter L, E-P-T-I-N. Leptin, tsaka yung ghrelin, G-H-R-E-L-I-N. Okay? So, sa mga animals natin, meron itong direct na effect sa feed intake tsaka growth performance ng mga animals natin. So kapag there is a hormonal imbalance, this would also lead sa poor feed efficiency or even overweight yung mga animals natin. So eto na yung kanina na mga different na endocrine glands natin. Now, there are also chemical classes of hormones. So una, we have yung mga peptide bands natin or yung peptide hormones natin. So these are made up of amino acid chains. Kaya sila ay tinatawag natin as water soluble. Okay? So dahil dito, hindi sila basta nakakalusot sa cell membrane. Kaya ang action nila is through receptors on the cell surface. So example, would include yung insulin, the growth hormone, tsaka yung antidiuretic hormone. So yung mga in animals natin, yung insulin that would regulate yung glucose metabolism, yung growth hormone that would promote growth and lengthening of the epiphyseal plate, as well as the ADH will it's more on conservation of water. Now, in terms of the steroid hormones, ito yung mga derived from cholesterol. Okay? So lahat ng steroid hormones would share the same four-ring na carbon structure. So dahil sila ay fat soluble, madaling makapasok sa cell membrane nila at kumikilos sila sa loob mismo ng cell. So that would now, once na kumilos sila doon sa loob ng cell, that would affect now yung gene expression. Okay, so examples for this one are the cortisol, the estrogen, and testosterone. So sa farm animals natin, I have already discussed a while back yung cortisol that is involved in stress response. Yung estrogen, you already know that one. Lalong-lalong estrogen at saka progesterone. These would regulate the estrous cycle in female animals as well as the testosterone for the behavior and spermatogenesis for the male animals. Okay? Now, eto, if you would look at in your books, meron tayo ditong structure ng cholesterol. So, makikita natin dito, okay, makikita natin na mayroon itong apat na um, fuse rings. So, tatlong six-membered at isang five-membered. So, ito ang tinatawag na steroid na nucleus na common sa lahat ng steroid hormones. So, dito sa kaliwa, may maliit na hydroxyl group or yung tinatawag natin as OH. Okay? Ito ang nagbibigay sa cholesterol ng kanyang konting polarity. Okay? Samantala, yung mahabang hydrocarbon chain sa kanan ay sobrang non-polar. Kaya overall, cholesterol is tinatawag natin as amphipathic, partly water-loving and mostly fat-loving. Okay? So dahil sa structure na ito, yung cholesterol, it can be able to insert itself sa mga cell membranes. Okay? So ang OH group nakaharap sa water surface habang ang rings at hydrocarbon tail naka-embed sa fatty layer. Ito ang dahilan now kung bakit yung cholesterol it stabilizes yung membrane fluidity at iba't ibang temperatures. Okay? At pinaka-importante, Itong rigid ring structure ng cholesterol ang tinatawag natin as precursor ng lahat ng steroid hormones tulad ng estrogen, yung cortisol, yung testosterone. Parang ito yung nagsisilbing parent kay parent ng mga hormones natin. Tsaka yung mga hormones nila ay yung mga hormones ng mga animals, we are considering them as the children of the cholesterol. Okay? So you will understand this one later on once na mag-show ako ng isang image. Okay? Then the last one, we have the amine hormones or the amine hormones. So these are derived naman from single amino acids. So usually tyrosine, so yung mga thyroid hormones natin. So interesting sila kasi pwedeng maging water soluble or fat soluble depende sa type. So examples would be the thyroid hormone, yung T3 tsaka T4, which are fat soluble. And yung mga epinephrine tsaka norepinephrine, which are the water soluble. Okay? So ano yung common, although you will encounter this one later on as we go on with the discussion, yung mga thyroid hormones, sila yung nagre-regulate ng metabolism tsaka growth. While yung epinephrine tsaka yung norepinephrine, eto yung mga hormones that prepare animals for the fight or flight na response sa nervous system nila. Okay? Now, let's move on to eicosanoids. So, ano nga ba ito? So, etong mga eicosanoids, these are chemical messengers derived from long-chain fatty acids, specifically from arachidonic acid, na matatagpuan sa cell membranes. Hindi sila considered as classic hormones kasi hindi sila galing sa endocrine glands. Okay? Pero malaki ang role nila sa regulation ng iba't ibang body functions. Ngayon, may tatlong major groups tayo ng eicosanoids. Meron tayong the prostaglandins, the thromboxanes, tsaka yung leukotrienes. Now, when it comes to the prostaglandins, originally, nadidiscover natin ito sa prostate gland, kaya galing dito ang name. Pero they are actually found almost everywhere sa katawan ng animal. Okay? Now, ano yung pinaka-functions niya? First one, it says here, blood vessel diameter. So kapag may tissue damage or infection, yung cells ng animals, it would release yung arachidonic acid. And this arachidonic acid will be converted into prostaglandin. Okay? So etong mga prostaglandin na to would act now on the smooth muscle cells ng mga blood vessels. So pwede nilang i-relax ang muscle. So that would cause vasodilation, mas madami yung blood flow. So nagdadala ng immune cells sa damaged area or pwede rin nilang i-constrict para ma-reduce naman yung blood flow kung kailangan. Okay? Now, when it comes to the inflammation, function ito ng prostaglandin tsaka yung leukotrienes. So, like for example, there is a tissue injury. So, yung mga mass at tsaka yung damaged cells would release also the arachidonic acid. So, this would get to be converted now into prostaglandin tsaka yung leukotriene. Okay? So when it comes to the prostaglandin, that would cause now or that would causes now yung swelling, yung redness, tsaka yung pain. Bakit mayroong pain? Dahil sa vasodilation at stimulation ngayon ng pain receptors. Okay? Now sa mga leukotrienes naman, ini-increase niya, kay pinapataas nila yung vascular permeability. Now, once na there is an increase of vascular permeability, dito na lumalabas, kaya merong lumalabas na fluid at nagkakaroon ng pamamaga. Or in other animals, there is also reddening. Okay? That is because of the leukotrienes that are being converted from the arachidonic acid. Now, next one, we have the blood clotting. So when it comes to the blood clotting naman, kapag may sugat, syempre, yung mga platelets, they will get activated. So yung mga activated ngayon na mga platelets would release now etong mga thromboxane naman. Okay? Although blood clotting din dito sa prostaglandin, pero ang pinaka-function kasi ng thromboxane is more on the blood clotting. So, etong mga activated na platelets na to, they would release the thromboxane again from the arachidonic acid. Okay? So anong ginagawa ng mga thromboxane? So sila ngayon yung gumagawa ng mga platelets, okay? Kasi meron na tayong activated na platelets. Kailangan etong mga platelets na to, they will stick together para magkaroon ng plug. Okay? Para magkaroon ng plug. So that is now the role of the thromboxane. Okay? So that is for um ginagawa ng thromboxane sa blood clotting. So again, another one is they also cause yung tinatawag natin as vasoconstriction para bumagal ang blood flow at makatulong sa clot formation. Okay? Kasi kailangan there is a vasoconstriction always if there is an activation of the platelets para sa clot formation. Now, another one is the uterine contraction. So this is during parturition. Again, this is part or this is a role of the prostaglandin. So near the time of parturition, yung placenta tsaka yung uterus, they will produce now yung prostaglandin F2 alpha. Okay? Yung PGF2 alpha, that would now stimulate yung strong contraction ng uterine smooth muscles. So what would be the result? So this will help now na ma-push yung fetus out during the birthing process. Kaya ginagamit din ang synthetic na prostaglandin sa animal science or even sa veterinary medicine para makapagpa-induce ng labor or para makapag-synchronize ng estrus sa mga animals natin, lalong-lalo na sa mga cattle. Now, another one, ovulation. So still, role of the prostaglandin. So just before ovulation, you will encounter this one later on. The luteinizing hormone, there will be a surge of luteinizing hormone. So this will now trigger yung prostaglandin production sa ovary. So yung mga prostaglandins, they will weaken now the follicle wall and would increase the contraction of ovarian smooth muscle. So what would be the result? So, agkaroon iti rupture, the gajay follicles. So, if there is already a rupture of the follicles from the ovaries, then it will be cut or it will be caught now with the oviduct kasi magkakaroon ng release of egg. Okay, so that is for the prostaglandin. We have already for the thromboxane, same pathway lang din with the prostaglandin, but then it is only focused with blood clotting. For the leukotrienes, I have already discussed this one. Eto, airway constriction, yung controls airways. So, this is being done if there is an allergic reaction. So yung mga mast cells, they would release yung mga leukotrienes. So yung mga leukotrienes ngayon, once na na-release sila, they will cause now yung bronchoconstriction or yung narrowing now ng airway. Para anong ginagawa pag there is a bronchoconstriction, this makes yung breathing ng animals to be difficult. Kasi even naman sa tao, if you have an allergic reactions, if you have an allergic reaction, there would be yung tinatawag natin as respiratory allergies. So medyo nahihirapan huminga yung mga animals natin and even sa tao. That is now because of those leukotrienes that are being released from the mast cells. Now, dahil involve ang prostaglandin sa inflammation, dito ngayon pumapasok ang mga NSAID or yung non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs tulad ng aspirin tsaka ibuprofen. Now, ang ginagawa nila, ini-inhibit nila yung prostaglandin synthesis. Kaya bumababa ang inflammation at saka pain. That is why if you have if you have some inflammatory, there are some doctors that would give you yung mga ibuprofen or yung mga aspirin para mapababa yung inflammation tsaka pain. So etong mga drugs na to, okay, etong mga medicines na to, blina-block nila yung enzyme which is the COX or yung tinatawag natin as the sialooxygenase. Para anong ginagawa ng enzyme na to? Siya yung this is being needed para makagawa ng prostaglandin tsaka thromboxane. Okay? Pero may downside din. May downside din ito. Dahil hindi lang bad prostaglandins ang naaapektuhan, pati yung mga good ones na nagpro-protect sa stomach tsaka kidneys. Kaya possible ang gastric ulcers at kidney injury kung sobra ang paggamit ngayon ng NSAID. Kaya may mga there are already recent studies, may mga newer NSAIDs na mas specific. So ang target lang nila ay yung prostaglandins na may kinalaman sa inflammation para maiwasan yung unwanted side effects. Okay, so let's move on to hormone receptors. This one are the endocrine glands lang pala, the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, which is being subdivided into three lobes, the posterior, anterior, tsaka intermediate, the thyroid, parathyroid, pancreas, the adrenal gland, the medulla, tsaka cortex, that is just only the inside and outside, tsaka yung mga gonads, which are the ovaries and testes. Now, let's move on to the hormone receptors. Tandaan ninyo, kahit dumadaan ang hormones sa dugo at halos lahat ng cells na dadaanan nila, hindi lahat ng cells nagre-respond. Ang nagre-respond lang ay yung tinatawag nating target organs. So for example, yung insulin, okay? Insulin works on the skeletal muscles and the liver. So hindi lahat specific lang kung saan may target. Now, bakit kaya specific ang effect ng hormones? It's because of these receptors. Parang lock and key system sila. Kung walang receptor, walang action. Kahit ang dami pang insulin sa dugo, kung yung cell walang insulin receptor, walang mangyayari. Okay? So that is now the concept behind this one. Now, meron tayong dalawang main types ng receptors. Yung una, nasa cell membrane, ito yung para sa peptide hormones gaya ng insulin, yung growth hormone, yung ADH. So since water-soluble, ang mga hormones na to, hindi sila makakapasok sa cell. Kaya kailangan may receptor sa labas. So that is now inside the cell membrane. Now, yung pangalawa naman, nasa loob ng cell. Either sa cytoplasm or sa nucleus. Ito naman ang receptors para sa mga steroid hormones gaya ng estrogen, yung testosterone, tsaka cortisol. Since lipid-soluble sila, madali silang makatawid sa cell membrane at diretsyo sa receptor sa loob. Ngayon, isang mahalagang concept, nagbabago ang bilang ng receptors depende sa situation. Kapag dumadami ang receptors, tawag natin doon ay upregulation. Ibig sabihin, mas sensitive ang cell sa hormone. Kapag kumokonti naman, that is what we call as downregulation. Ibig sabihin, less responsive naman siya. So isang magandang example dito ay yung nangyayari bago manganak ang animal. So just before parturition, tumataas ang estrogen level sa katawan. So ang ginagawa ng estrogen, pinapadami nito yung oxytocin receptors sa uterus. So kapag dumating na yung release ng oxytocin, ready na yung uterus para sa strong contraction. So walang increase ng receptors, hindi magiging sapat ang effect ng oxytocin para mailabas ang animal. Okay? So that is now the concept behind the hormone receptors. Now, these are the major endocrine glands, the hormones they secrete, and primary action and target tissue of the hormones. So, we will discuss this one by one as the discussion progresses naman. So, for the hypothalamus, so these are the hormones. And then this would be the action of these hormones for the adenohypophysis, which is the anterior pituitary gland. So these are the hormones, and then these are their actions for the neurohypophysis or the posterior pituitary gland. So these are the two hormones, and then these are the action, the adrenal cortex and medulla, the thyroid, so the T4 and T3, the thyroid parafollicular cells, at saka yung parathyroid, and the pancreatic islets, the beta cells, tsaka yung alpha cells. Okay, now let's talk about naman yung cellular effects of peptide hormones. Okay, unang tandaan, peptide hormones, these are water soluble. So dahil dito, they cannot freely diffuse across the lipid bilayer ng cell membrane. Kaya saan makikita ang receptors nila? Okay, saan makikita yung receptors nila? That would be at the outside surface ng cell membrane. So paano gumagana? Step 1, yung hormone magbabind ngayon sa receptor sa membrane. So pag nangyari ito, there would be a series of events na mangyayari inside the cell. So depende sa hormone, pwedeng magbago ang permeability ng channels. Pwedeng ma-activate or pwedeng ma-inhibit ang membrane-bound enzymes. Or pwedeng maapektuhan ang intracellular enzymes. Ngayon, madalas ang effect ng peptide hormones ay through enzymes. So for example, maraming peptide hormones ang nag-a-activate ng adenyl cyclase. So ano ang ginagawa nito? It would convert yung ATP into cyclic AMP or yung tinatawag natin as CAMP. Ang CAMP, tandaan ninyo class, this is a second messenger. Anong ibig sabihin pag sinabi natin na second messenger? Siya yung nagsisilbing intermediate. So, after hormone will bind to the receptor, itong second messenger ang nagdadala ng signal papasok sa cell para makapag-produce ng effect. So, example ng mga second messengers based in our book is we have the CAMP, the DAG or the diacylglycerol, the IP3 or the inositol triphosphate. So yung DAG tsaka IP3 naman, nabubuo sila dahil sa action ng enzyme na phospholipase C sa phospholipids ng membrane yan. Now, ano ang special sa peptide band or sa peptide hormones na to? Kadalasan, mabilis ang effect nila. Okay? Mabilis ang effect nila. So example, yung ADH or yung antidiuretic hormone, sa kidney cells, within minutes, kaya nitong baguhin ang permeability ng membrane to water. Bakit mabilis? Kasi ang kailangan lang ay i-activate yung enzymes and proteins na present already within the cell. Pero take note, minsan, yung mga peptide hormones natin, it can also cause longer lasting effects. So papaano naman to? Kapag yung pathway nila umabot hanggang DNA transcription, so dito nagproproduce ng mRNA, then syempre, there would be new proteins na masisynthesize. So mas matagal ngayon yung effect kasi may bagong proteins na involved. So ang tawag sa mga agents na directly nag-i-influence ng transcription ay yung tinatawag natin as transcription factors. Okay? So that is for cellular effects of peptide hormones. So ito yung example ng isang second messenger system na ginagamit ng peptide hormones, which is the CAMP signaling pathway. So, ang first step natin dito, kapag yung peptide hormone nag-bind sa receptor sa cell membrane, it will activate now an enzyme na tawag natin as the adenylate cyclase or the adenyl cyclase or yung tinatawag natin as AC. So, eto na ngayon yung starting point natin. Now, etong AC na to will convert yung ATP into CAMP. Tandaan ninyo, ang CAMP is our second messenger. Siya ang nagdadala ng signal mula sa membrane papasok sa cell. Okay? So, ang next step, yung CAMP ngayon will activate the protein kinase A. So, ang PKA, this is an enzyme na very important kasi kaya niyang i-activate or i-inhibit yung iba pang protein sa loob ng cell. So kapag activated na si PKA, pupunta siya ngayon sa nucleus at i-activate naman ngayon ang CREB. So ang CREB, this is the CAMP response element binding protein. So ang trabaho ni CREB ay magbabind sa DNA para matrigger ang transcription ng certain genes. So, ano ngayon ang resulta if that's the case? So, depende pa rin sa hormone at saka target cell, pero madalas ay pag-produce ng new proteins. Okay, that is number one. Producing or production of new proteins changes sa metabolism or even cell growth. So, overall, dito, yung CAM pathway, pinapakita natin or pinapakita niya dito how a signal that starts outside the cell dahil hindi makapasok ang peptide hormone will be get converted into a chain of intracellular events that lead now to a specific na biological response. So that is now yung overview or kagandahan ngayon ng peptide hormones. Now, cellular effects naman. So kanina napag-usapan natin yung peptide hormones na gumagamit ng second messengers like yung CAM. So eto naman, we have the steroid tsaka thyroid hormones. Again, please be reminded, ang steroid tsaka thyroid hormones, these are lipid-soluble hormones. Okay? Lipid-soluble itong mga hormones na to. Ibig sabihin, they can easily pass through the cell membrane kasi made of lipids din yung bilayer. Unlike sa peptides na stuck sa labas, sa steroid at thyroid hormones, nakakapasok diretso sa cell. So pag nakapasok na sila, hahanapin nila yung receptor. So usually nasa cytoplasm or minsan nasa nucleus na agad. So kapag nag-bind yung hormone sa receptor, itong complex na ito, yung hormone plus receptor ay nagiging transcription factor. So ano ibig sabihin ng transcription factor? I have already said that a while back. Ibig sabihin, direction silang nakakaapekto sa DNA. They can either increase or decrease yung transcription ng specific gene. So ang susunod na mangyayari, magkakaroon ng changes sa production ng mRNA. And then pag may bagong mRNA, automatic na yan, magkakaroon ng synthesis ng new proteins. And then, as what I've said, itong mga new proteins na to ang magbibigay ng biological response sa katawan ng animal. Pero take note ha, ang epekto ng steroid at thyroid hormones ay slower to develop compared sa peptide hormones. Bakit? Kasi kailangan pa nilang dumaan sa process ng gene transcription at protein synthesis. Pero ang maganda dito, ang effect ng steroid at thyroid hormones, long-lasting. Okay? Kasi proteins ang end product. So even though I have already discussed sa peptide kanina, ang peptide hormones mabilis pero short-lived effect. Ang steroid at thyroid hormones mabagal pero matagal ang epekto. Okay, Ito naman, it's very important to. Ito yung cholesterol transport at conversion into steroid hormone. So, tignan natin itong diagram na to. So makikita ninyo dito kung papaano nanggaling, okay, kung papaano nanggagaling yung cholesterol at paano siya nagiging steroid hormones. So first one, syempre, galing muna sa diet. Okay? O kung na natin remnant chylomicrons from diet. So galing muna sa diet yung dietary cholesterol in the form of chylomicrons. Now, etong mga to napupunta sa liver. So dito, pwede siyang i-convert into acetyl-CoA or pwede ring gawing VLDL or very low density lipoproteins na ibinabato palabas. Okay? So kailangan i-recycle, kailangan obraan ni liver detoy mismo nga chylomicrons. Now, after that one, pwede na tong ibato. Okay, ibabato ngayon ni liver palabas papunta sa dugo. Ngayon sa blood, nagta-travel ngayon yung cholesterol as part of the LDL or the low density particles or low density lipoproteins particles. Kung makikita ninyo, ang LDL particle, okay, may kasamang phospholipids, triglycerides, cholesterol esters, and ApoB100 protein. Kaya siya tinatawag minsan na bad cholesterol kasi ito ang nagdadala ng cholesterol papasok sa cells. So pagdating ng LDL sa target cell, ginagamit niya yung LDL receptor sa plasma membrane. So makikita ninyo dito, may tinatawag tayong coated pit at clathrin. Parang ini-engulf niya, okay, parang susupon na detoy. Parang ini-engulf niya yung LDL particle at mabubuo ang coated vesicle. Okay? So pagpasok sa cell, tatanggalin niya yung clathrin. Magiging uncoated vesicle na to. Tapos madadala sa lysosome. So dito mabre-breakdown yung LDL particle into amino acids, cholesterol, tsaka fatty acids. Now yung cholesterol na yan, may dalawang phase. Okay? Pwedeng about 80% gagamitin ng cell as cholesterol mismo. So that is for membranes or for storage ng fat or ng energy. Yung 20% naman, i-convert siya into steroid hormones. So dito papasok si pregnenolone. Okay? Si pregnenolone, siya ang pinaka first step ng steroid hormone synthesis. So from pregnenolone, pwede ka nang gumawa ng iba't ibang hormones. O di ba? Tingnan ninyo kung gaano kaganda yung process. Parang tinitingnan nyo lang siya as bad replication na cholesterol lang yan, cholesterol lang yan. Pero kung titignan natin in a good faith, in a good side, yung cholesterol pala na kinakain natin or na ini-intake natin, siya pala yung parent material para makagawa ng steroid hormones. Okay? So, so that is now yung mga hormones na to, the aldosterone, that is for water and electrolyte balance, yung cortisol, that is for stress hormone, yung testosterone, that is for the male sex hormone, estradiol, that is also part of the female sex hormone. Okay? Now, if you have tried to have a laboratory test, sa mga tao naman, if you have tried na magkaroon ng laboratory test, meron tayong tinatawag kasi na LDL tsaka HDL. Yung high density lipoprotein tsaka yung low density lipoprotein. Ang mga LDL tsaka HDL, pareho silang lipoprotein. So ibig sabihin, mga transport vehicle sila ng cholesterol at fat sa dugo. Pero magkaiba sila ng role. Ang LDL, madalas tawagin natin siya as bad cholesterol. Dahil dinadala niya, kasi transport vehicle nga siya, dinadala niya ang cholesterol papunta sa mga tissues at cells. At pwedeng maipon ito sa walls ng arteries. Okay? Parang delivery tract na nagdadala ng cholesterol kung saan kailangan. Pero kung sobra, naiipon naman siya at nagbabara. Now, ang HDL naman, or kilala being called as the good cholesterol, dahil kinokolekta niya ang excess cholesterol mula sa tissues at arteries, tapos ibinabalik sa liver para i-recycle o i-excrete. Kaya doon natin tinatawag as good cholesterol. Parang garbage truck, nililinis niya ang sobra para hindi magbara ang ugat. Okay? So pag pag high HDL, more garbage trucks, mas malinis ang ugat. Pag mababa naman ang LDL, less delivery trucks na nag-iiwan ng cholesterol sa arteries. So yun dapat yung titignan ninyo when you want to have your laboratory blood test. Kailangan mataas yung HDL natin, tsaka mababa dapat yung LDL. Now, when it comes to the LDL, take note hindi siya mismo ang nagko-convert ng cholesterol into hormones. Ang role niya ay magdala, okay, mag-transport, magdala ng cholesterol mula sa liver papunta sa mga cells. Kapag nasa loob na ng cell ang cholesterol, doon na siya i-convert into steroid hormone. Okay? So that is para mas clear lang siya. Now, eto. Kapag mataas ang LDL or bad cholesterol sa animals, so there would be overload sa tissues. So pwedeng mag-lead ito sa tinatawag natin as the fatty liver or yung tinatawag natin as hepatic lipidosis. Okay? Lalo na sa mga dairy cows after calving. Pero sa tao, very common ito, yung fatty liver sa mga tao to. Okay? Eto naman, yung atherosclerosis, pagbabara ng blood vessels naman ito. Okay? Hindi masyadong common sa mga livestock kumpara sa tao, pero nakikita natin sa mga ilang species, lalong-lalo na sa mga dogs at saka sa mga rabbits. Okay? Pwedeng makaapekto ito sa reproductive performance kasi nagkakaroon ng imbalance sa hormone synthesis. Okay? Halimbawa, if you have that one, mataas yung LDL mo, mataas yung bad cholesterol mo, it would delay yung ovulation. Okay? Pwede siyang ma-delay yung ovulation or sa mga lalaki naman, it would cause a poorer na quality ng sperm cell. Okay? Pag mataas yung cholesterol. Sa poultry, pag mataas yung LDL, of course, sa carcass, what would be the consequence? Mas oily. Okay, mas oily ngayon yung carcass and medyo mas reduce ngayon yung meat quality. Now, kapag mataas naman ang HDL or good cholesterol, so kadalasan protective siya kasi tinatanggal niya ang excess cholesterol sa tissues. So pero kung sobrang taas, minsan sign din ito na hindi nagagamit ng katawan ng maayos ang cholesterol. So possible metabolic disorder din ito. Okay? So sa mga farm animals natin, madalas hindi problem ang mataas na HDL. Ang mas concern talaga natin dito is kapag mataas ang LDL. Okay? Even naman sa tao, yun din naman ang concern natin. Even though sinabi ko kanina na kapag mataas or sobrang taas yung HDL, may problem sa metabolism, possible na metabolic disorder. Pero hindi yun yung tinitignan ng doktor. Ang tinitignan ng doktor is yung LDL. Okay? Pag medyo mataas yung LDL, doon ka pwedeng magkaroon ulit ng other laboratories na titignan. So, possible na magkaroon ultrasound para makita yung mismong itsura ng liver. Okay, so that is the first part of the endocrine system. I will just give you the another na recorded discussion once I finish recording it. So thank you very much for watching.